We are live talking sports. I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in, joining us, and Andy Yanez, who will tweet out what he does. He's really good at that. Well, he's better at that stuff than me and you,
It's
putting it
that
on
Gen
social
Z,
media. Yeah,
that Gen Z stuff, man.
youngsters know how to do all that stuff. But I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review, joined by Andy Yanez from the Community Impact newspaper, and Willy Gibson, journalist who covers the Ohio State Buckeyes and Ohio. You cover the Cavs and Ohio
Yeah,
sports, right?
I
So
do.
yeah.
The Browns, Cavs, yep. Yep.
All right, let's get into this, man. Want to recap something we touched on Sunday in Sunday's show, talking sports about Penny Hardaway and the Orlando Magic. Well, Penny's staying with Memphis, the Memphis Tigers, college basketball. That's good for the conference. But fellas, one of the things that I didn't think about this, we didn't talk about it in Sunday's show, was one possibility was Penny spoke to the Magic for leverage with Memphis. Maybe they get something better for Memphis, better money, contract, whatever. Oh, we just lost our man Andy. So, all right, so Will, it's me and you then, man. So let's just make it a little bigger. So let's do it like that for right now. I didn't think about that. What do you think about Penny using leverage? Because he hired LB, Larry Brown, to join his staff. Larry Brown's 80 years old, man. Come on.
Hey, man, he's a lifer. Basketball lifer, I guess, But I get it. I mean, and we talked about Penny being a businessman making power moves, and he made the ultimate power move. He used, and coaches do it. Coaches do it all the time. They get, their agents plant their name for opening. Potentially they could leave to get more money from the current employer. And he did nothing that any other coach would not do, has not done. And, it's kind of par for the course. That's what coaches do. And, I don't fault him. I don't blame him at all.
Andy, you're back now. Can you chime in on Penny staying in Memphis?
Well, yeah, I'm back, man. And the moment you click live, it started buffering again. Something about we've had 3 straight weeks of just technical issues.
It's all right, Andy.
I think it's still
live.
buffering.
It's live. We hear you fine, man. Just keep on talking. We hear you fine. All right,
Yeah,
Will, let's share it.
On the subject of Penny Hardaway and deciding to stay on Memphis. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, go ahead,
Yes.
man.
Yep.
Look like you just.
I think it's freezing. I was gonna say.
Go ahead. Just keep talking. It's live, man. Just keep talking. Just roll with it.
All right. This I was gonna say in terms of Memphis, Penny Hardaway staying is perfect for the University of Memphis, and like we mentioned last week, where I think one of the downsides of if Penny would have taken that job with the Orlando Magic would have been just leaving the University of Memphis high and dry, especially so late in terms of where the summer is right now. It's July already, and if he would have left that program at this point, it would have been an awkward situation just for the entire university. So good for them, and of course good for the American Athletic Conference because it's another thing they can tout. And with Penny Hardaway in Memphis, at least for the near future, that's something that will make the conference better just in terms of how good he's been able to recruit the pets. I mean, since he's been in Memphis.
Larry Brown, Andy. Larry Brown is almost 4 times your age. What do you think about him joining Memphis staff?
I mean, it's perfect. It's better for Memphis. And like you mentioned, one of the things that that attracts players is that NBA experience that people may have on the coaching staff, and that's just another benefit to keep up with the recruiting class that they've had in the last couple of seasons.
All right, let's get into it. Rockets, we got this is going to be a combo Houston Rockets, Houston Cougars discussion. Will chime in on this, man, because the Chronicles, Jonathan Fagan put out his first mock draft yesterday, and he has the Rockets taking with the second pick, Jalen Green. Will, I know you cover the Cavs, and I know that doesn't make you happy to hear that, but this, what are your thoughts? And let me read what Jonathan says about Jalen Green at 2. The Rockets could go a variety of ways with the second pick, with the next 3 players likely to be selected worthy and offering very different strengths. Green's offensive potential is especially attractive. And we'll just add to it, he has Evan Mobley going 3 to the Cavs.
Well, here's the thing. Evan Mobley 3 to the Cavs would work when and if Kevin Love is traded. Now, the rumor du jour, if you will, has Kevin Love and Colin Sexton, which is interesting because they bumped heads quite a bit the last 2 years specifically up in Cleveland. They have Kevin Love and Colin Sexton going to Miami for Tyler Hero. I think it's Andre Iguodala was part of that deal, only for money purposes, I'm sure.
Sure, right.
And then Precious. Yes. Mm-hmm. So that'll be interesting. The only reason I don't like, and I say that because Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, that combination could work. I've also heard, which I don't like, them drafting Evan Mobley and then also signing and trading Jared Allen elsewhere to accumulate more assets. I'm not a fan of that. I think Jared Allen fell into your lap when James Harden traded. You know, for those that may not have known, Brooklyn was still about $2 million short, clearing cap space to bring in James Harden. So they called Cleveland and said, "Hey, would you be interested in Jared Allen?" And Kobe Altman, of course, said, "By all means, yeah, let's do it." So they sent Milwaukee's first-round pick this year that they got in the previous deal to Brooklyn. I think they passed that on to Houston in that deal as well. I think that's the 24th pick that Houston has. So, I mean, you heard Jonathan Kuminga. You've heard Scotty Barnes at 3, which a lot of conversation was attached to him at 6 when it was thought that Cleveland couldn't move up and they would be drafting at 6. Scotty Barnes from Florida State was a name that you heard quite a bit. They need size. I mean, they've drafted guards 3 straight years. It's not going to fly, even with them trading potentially a Colin Sexton. They have to get bigger. And, and then when I say bigger, not necessarily a 4-5, but a bigger guard. They drafted 6'1" guards, right. And it's just not working. So Jalen Green at 6'5" would have been perfect in Cleveland. And he can, he's a walking bucket, gets his own shot. I hate to sound like a broken record, and I bring it up week after week. And, since I'm on with 2 Houston-based guys, Kevin Porter Jr. would have been perfect. They had him. And moving on. But, it'll be, the pick could be for sale if, in fact, Jalen Green goes at 2. I'm not opposed, or I'm not going to be shocked. In fact, if Kobe Altman is making that pick for someone else and it's moved after the moratorium is lifted.
And we're going to talk right now about the Rockets. So Rocket fans, so I know I got a copious amount of Rocket followers on Houston Roundball Reviews YouTube channel. But Rockets, Jonathan Fagan, has at the 23rd pick, Trey Murphy the 3rd from Virginia/Rice, because Trey played at Rice first, then transferred to Virginia and played at Virginia this past season for the Cavaliers. 6'8" forward. This is what Fagan says about him. Andy and I can talk about him a little bit more in detail just a second. Murphy has seemed to move up steadily and could climb a bit more, taking him out of the Rockets' reach. But if he's still on the board, he has a 3-and-D potential the Rockets would covet. Trey shot 43% from 3 this past season at Virginia. Rice and U of H played each other 2 seasons ago at Tudor Fieldhouse. Andy's first time attending a game at Rice. Trey Murphy, that first half, U of H had no answer for him whatsoever. He was lighting him up from outside, had a pump fake, drove baseline for a dunk. The crowd was hyped up. Then he sprained his ankle and was never the same after that. And he played the second half, but he did not score more than 2 points in the second half. And then Quentin Grimes got hot in the second half and helped U of H come back and win that ball game. I think Quinn scored 32 points in that game, and 20-something of them came in the second half to lead the comeback charge. But Trey Murphy has skills. He is legit. He's still getting better. He's 6'8". He needs to get stronger like, many college players do. But he would not be a bad pick at 23 for the Rockets. And he's going to – I've seen him projected higher, around 20 or so. I think some folks had him going, 21 to the Knicks. I've seen him going to the Knicks at 21. So he has potential. He'd be a good fit in the Rocket system. He shoots well from three, shoots well from two overall. Free throw shooting is very solid as well. But Andy, at that game, what were your thoughts on when you saw Trey Murphy against U of H?
I think he'd be the perfect fit for the Rockets if he's there and available for them. Oh, did I freeze? Can you guys hear me?
Okay, we hear you now, yeah. Mm-hmm. You're good now.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Not in sync, though, so we got a delay.
It's a little stormy, too. I don't know. That's playing. Oh, man. Well, I guess we'll just go with the delay, but I was going to say.
Go with the flow, man. Go with the flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree that he'd be a perfect fit for the Rockets with what they want to do. I mean, you can never have too many 3-and-D players, especially at the guard position. But one thing I remember from when U of H played Rice, before the game, Kelvin Sampson was giving high praise to Trey Murphy. I think before that game, he called him the best college player in the city of Houston, which, I mean, that's high praise from Kelvin Sampson. And he delivered, like you said, in that first half against U of H. And then going over to Virginia and being able to continue to show what he brought to the table to a larger audience against different opponents. I think. Am I disconnecting? I think I got lost. Am I back?
Just keep talking, man. Just keep talking. Good. Keep talking until you want to restart your system.
Yeah.
We'll log off and do it again. It's live, man. Don't sweat it until we get a major sponsor.
No.
Man, I have no concerns. Just keep on flowing.
Well, no, I'm just confused because for a second it looks like you guys are paused, so I have no idea if I'm just talking into the abyss. But yeah, like I said, that was high praise from Kelvin Sampson, calling him the best college player in the city of Houston, and then going out there in the game and showing, like you mentioned, that first half against U of H is always known for their defense, and then transitioning over to Virginia and, I mean, stepping into that team and proving it's a different set of opponents and to a wider audience, and it's interesting to see his stock rising late. Kind of I wouldn't compare it to Quentin Grimes in this situation because they're different in terms of where they're ranking, but the way he would fit with the Rockets, I feel like he'd be perfect.
And at 24, Fagan has the Rockets, and the pick is from Milwaukee. Has the Rockets picking Zaire Williams, 6'8", another 6'8", forward from Stanford. Now, he had up and down season at Stanford. Part of that, Stanford had issues with COVID and all that kind of thing. Everybody did, but he was inconsistent. Mm-hmm. I think his potential is there, but comparing the two, Zaire and Trey Murphy, in terms of shooting, offensive skills, Trey is more advanced than Zaire is right now. But 28, Mr. Gibson.
Yes, sir.
28. Jonathan Fagan has Quentin Grimes going to the Philadelphia 76ers. He is the second person to have Grimes going to Philly at 28. I've seen 6 or 7 mock drafts so far. Only 2 have Quentin going in the first round. Both of those 2 people who haven't been going in the first round have been going to Philly at 28. Rest of the mock drafts have him going in the 40s, late 40s, things like that. I think everybody agrees he will get drafted, I do believe there's still an outside chance he can go in the late first round. But 28 to Philly with the Houston connection, Daryl Morey, being there in charge of personnel. He's seen Quentin before here in town. Obviously he can, call up Kelvin and get Kelvin's input, specifically about Quentin if he has any questions. But I think that'd be a good fit. I think Quentin has the 3-point shooting that the Sixers can use. He's got good size. He's 6'5". He's strong body. And he's got some ability to run the offense as well. I'm all about versatility. I want my guards and bigs to do more than one thing, if possible. And Quentin can do that. And plus, he learned how to play defense and rebound under Kelvin Sampson, because if he didn't do those two things, he wasn't going to play a lot. So, but in your opinion, Will, just thoughts on Quentin Grimes going to Philly and how he would fit with the Sixers?
I think it makes perfect sense, for the reasons you stated. They need punch off the bench. I mean, he's 6'5", he's a shooter, he's a scorer. Not afraid to take the shot, unlike recent history in Philadelphia, some players. He can play defense. And as you said, the more things you can do in Doc Rivers' offense, and Doc Rivers' system, if you will, the better. And Danny Green, I believe, is a free agent. He's 34, 35 years old. So not saying he's coming in as the starter, but with Danny Green being a free agent, that he fills a role. He has ability to come in and do some similar things, similar size. I don't know that he's a shooter at this juncture of his career that Danny Green is as a 12, 13-year veteran, but he would be someone that, and for all intents and purposes, for financial considerations, he's less expensive as well, by far. So, you bring a talent like that on a rookie deal, Philadelphia, I think it makes perfect sense. And with what you said, again, Daryl Morey, the Houston connection, the intel that he has being in the city formerly, again, makes perfect sense.
Andy, and Will, slide to the left just a little bit. Just a little bit. Slide to your left just a little. There you go. Andy, you touched on this Sunday, I think, about Quentin Grimes going to Philadelphia. What are your thoughts on his fit with Philly?
I think it's an interesting fit in terms of the dynamic with what Philadelphia is looking for. Obviously, what they showed this past postseason, they could certainly use another person that could shoot three and defend. That roster might change, but I'm not entirely sure. I feel like if he were to go to a team like Philadelphia or one of those teams in the late first round, he'd probably spend a lot more of this upcoming season in the G League. He wouldn't get a lot of playing time in terms of playing in the NBA. And with Potsdam and Jamma, that we recorded an episode that came out on Thursday, we kind of looked at the end of the first round, early second round, and looked at the teams that were there. And honestly, I think when it comes to fit and being able to play more and get NBA minutes, I think it might be better if he slides a little bit and gets taken in the early second round instead of being taken by one of those teams in the late first round. I know Orlando is one of those teams that has an early second round pick, and I think New Orleans had a couple of picks in that the first 5 second round picks. I feel if he were to go to teams like that, not necessarily in terms of fit, but I think it might be better for him in terms of getting NBA experience right off the bat. I think if he goes to Philadelphia, he probably might not see a lot of NBA minutes, especially with Doc Rivers. I think that's been one of his criticisms, not giving a lot of trust to rookies. Although this past season was a little bit different with Maxey there.
That's an interesting take. I could see it. I think it depends on the G League, the team, the NBA team first, and then the G League team that they have. Because there are some franchises that do a better job of developing talent in the G League than others.
Right.
Nate Hinton was with the Mavs, I think, the whole season. I mean, this season, an aberration because of COVID, but he was on a 2-way contract. I'm not sure how much time Nate spent in the G League.
Yeah, I
He was
think
with the
he only
Mavs pro team.
played. I think he might have only played like 10 or 12 games with the G League team.
So, how much of a benefit did he get? Did he learn more from being with the Mavs? Being in the show, working out in practice, going against the pros, or did he learn more in the handful of times he saw in the G League, playing the G League bubble? I mean, of course, the G League this year was just a month, February in the bubble, so it's not your typical G League experience. So I could see it. I think if you're not ready, if you're not going to get consistent minutes with the big club, spend time in the G League, get minutes until you get to a point where there's nothing enough for you to accomplish. You just killed everybody in the G League, and it's time you're ready. You prove me ready to be in the show. Now, if Quentin's going to do that, great. That means he'll be up soon. If it takes him a while to adjust, any rookie, not just Quentin, but any rookie, I think the G League does have its merits. So you bring up a good point, because there are some teams in the NBA who have high second-round picks who could stunt and ruin a young player's development. I mean, they stink for a reason. So getting a lot of minutes with those teams, how beneficial is that going to be for you, in the long run?
Right.
So we'll see about that.
Kris, there's one more team that I wanted to mention. I'm curious. I'm not sure. I mean, I'll just throw it out there and you tell me if you could see it happening. What about Brooklyn? I believe they have the 27th pick. Could you see them taking a flyer on Quentin Grimes?
Yeah. If for one very simple reason, first, James Harden recommending it.
Yeah, that's exactly what we said on Part-Time Gem. That connection.
I think that could. I mean, we got high second-round picks. We got the Bucks, the first pick in the second round from the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
He goes there. He's not going to play a lot, because the rookie, and they're still in their championship window. The Knicks, Coach Tibbs before this year, he really didn't play a lot of rookies. he didn't really believe in that. So Orlando stinks. Okay, they stink. Oklahoma City at 34.
Tell me how you really feel.
So Oklahoma City's young, so he could develop as they develop. The rest of the young team, he's going to lose a lot. New Orleans, they're in a state of flux. They need a head coach. Right there. Let me get right there. Did y'all see/hear what Stan Van Gundy said? And he was a guest on a podcast with Lebatard. And one of the comments was he and Griffin just did not have the same philosophy in terms of coaching. In their exit interview, they just did not see eye to eye, in basically the direction of the franchise. Okay, if you're Griffin, last year, what did y'all discuss before you hired Stan? Why'd you hire Stan to begin with? Y'all can't be on the same page then. Why'd you hire him?
Right. That doesn't make any sense. But again, stay with Griffin.
An example of why some teams just don't win. There's a reason why some teams lose repeatedly. Just like there's a reason some teams win repeatedly. It's organization. It starts with the top. Andy, plug real quick how folks can catch Paul Slammer Jamma.
Yeah, they can tune into Part-Time Jamma wherever they listen to podcasts. Apple Podcasts and Spotify are the main ones. Just search up Part-Time Jamma. It's PAWDSLAMA JAMA. Like the 5 Simon Jamma teams, but instead of 5, it's pod, like the Cougar Pod. But we just had a new episode released on Thursday. We talked about Justin Barbosa was my co-host. We talked about it was a Quentin Grimes heavy show. We talked about his draft combine, the numbers, the impressions he made, and then we also looked at a couple of the mock drafts where teams had him or where the other experts had him ranked. And then we also gave UH updates on the schedules for both the men's and women's teams. And Chris Gardner. You gave us a lot of content right before the morning with Ron Huey's interview. I mean, he gave you a lot of good stuff, not only schedule updates, but I didn't know that Erica Sidney was coming back for next season.
I didn't either, and I mentioned that in the interview. And thank you for that plug. Finally got to sit down with Coach Huey to talk U of H women's basketball. And if you haven't caught the interview, you can go to Houston Roundball Review on YouTube, go to my website because it's posted there as well. And the podcast audio of it is also on the podcast platforms. But he talked about Erica Sidney coming back, the team actually considering having meetings about not playing the COVID season twice. They thought about not playing to start the season, and then when it got hit with COVID, to not continue the season. So that was discussed. So that kind of opened my eyes. But he also touched on it toward the end of the conversation, and we're going to talk about this now, is name, image, and likeness. Today is July 2nd. July 1st, the NCAA changed forever. We got student assets now able to get money and get paid off of their name, image, and likeness. Thoughts? Will, is the NCAA dead? Did the sky fall on you in Ohio? Did everything fire rain down from you from on high yesterday?
No, NCAA dead. No, it's on life support. It's just struggling right now because, and you said it so as only you could on the lunch break yesterday. For years the narrative has been it's going to ruin college sports. Mark Emmert has said this, president of the NCAA, for years. It's going to ruin college sports. College sports as we know it will never be the same. And he's right to an extent. It won't. I don't know that it's changing negatively or it's a detriment. I don't believe that. No, Ohio State. Schools and states are handling this so differently. It's amazing that the state north of me, the flagship school of that state, is having a great deal of red tape to go through their student athletes. They have to submit deals. It has to be vetted for 7 to 10 days. Then it has to go through compliance. Whereas Ohio State tackled it head on. Athletic Director Gene Smith met with the top 20 sponsors of Ohio State athletics ahead of this to say, hey, how can we partner to make sure our student athletes benefit from name, image, and likeness? There was the state senator that submitted legislation in the Ohio Senate to make this law. Ohio State football coach Ryan Day testified on behalf of the bill. The flagship university in the state of Ohio, their football coach testified for his student athletes to be able to market themselves and to benefit financially from their name, their image, and their likeness. Other state schools in other states, their coach has pretty much said, I'll quit if student athletes are being paid. So the dynamic is so all over the board. It's amazing. But here in Ohio, no, it's all good. It's all good. Student athletes, Ohio State football players have announced deals. The first one was offensive tackle Nicholas Petit-Free, offensive right tackle starter, signed a deal for his name, image, and likeness to be used for a digital resume service in Tampa, Florida. He's a native of Tampa, Florida, and his name, image, and likeness is being used to market and promote that company that's local to him in Tampa, but across the world, essentially, with social media and those type things. So here in Ohio, it's all good.
And that's an issue that some states are more proactive than others in this NIL landscape. U of H, University of Houston, announced on Monday their program. The name of it is Liftoff, that they're tying in with the business college, Bauer College of Business. That's where I focus on. That's where my major at U of H was business. I haven't heard, I think Andy touched on it a little bit, too much deals announced from U of H's student assets yet. Andy said he thinks one football player has announced a deal so far. I know Rice has done so as well with an endorsement via Open Doors with GoPuff candies. And, you know, the reins in money, you know, some players are announcing the financial, publicly announcing the deals. You know, De'Aaron King, quarterback at Miami, he mentioned that one of his deals is $20,000. You know, many other athletes aren't disclosing that publicly. I think they have to tell the school the amount, but I mean, it's not really our business to know the amount. As long as they know it, the school knows it, and then the third party, whatever, the sponsor obviously knows it. As long as they're good with it, I'm good with it. Because
can I say
at some point,
to that?
Go ahead, sure, Will, go ahead.
To that point, financially, you know, it's pretty much assumed that with name, image, and likeness, we're talking basketball, football, revenue sports that have the most exposure, most recognizable athletes, if you will. There's a report of a gymnast at LSU that has a 7-figure deal.
Olivia Dunn. Olivia Dunn's her name.
Olivia Dunn, thank you. Name, image, and likeness, a gymnast, 7 figures. So it's not just about the revenue generating sports, the basketballs, the footballs, things of that nature.
And it's not just male athletes, you know, basketball players as well, because I think the Cabinet twins in Fresno State got a deal. So it's good to see. And I can't remember the school, but there was like a non-starter on a football team got an endorsement deal. So that's great. You know, it could have been a small school, whatever. I'm not hating on anybody capitalizing off their name, image, and likeness. If someone is willing to give you some money because of who you are and what you do, go for it. Because real talk, we're trying to do that here. We're trying to get somebody to believe in us and what we do and sponsor our work going forward. So I'm putting it out there. You know, we can always have a meeting and discuss the name of it, you know, 3 folks talking sports. And it may be more folks talking sports. It may just be talking sports. I did reach out to any females who are watching right now. I have reached out to 2 female colleagues. They were unable to make it this evening, but they will be on future shows. One of them may be on the very next show we have. So hold me to that. AJ Jones called me out on that on the lunch break, and that's fine. Hold me accountable. But I am going to keep my word, and I will have some women on this show. So trust me on that. But yeah, this is all about, I want everybody to eat. I want Andy to get some of this. I want Will to get some of this. I want to get some of this. Hey, I'm a true capitalist, you know, so I got no issue with that whatsoever, you know. But, and some of the student athletes who have huge followings on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, this is for them. This is for them. Yeah. The NIL, they need to capitalize on this, but they also need to be smart about their money. Don't blow it on stupid stuff. Okay, be wise with it. Pay off any debt you have. Take care of those things. Invest some of it. Don't make the mistakes I made when I was in college. Okay, I made some dumb mistakes. I'm still having to deal with some of that stuff. Okay, so don't do that. Be smart with your money. Surround yourself with folks who know what to do with money in a positive light. Don't waste it. Don't spend it on, you know, don't get to a point, if you are blessed to get a 7-figure deal, don't be an athlete. You've seen the pros who got 8 cars. You know, you got one behind. You can only drive 1 car. You only need 8 cars. So, you know, things like that, just, you know, silly stuff like that.
Kris.
So that's real, Andy. You're learning. You learn how I feel about this stuff.
I was going to ask you, this might be the journalist side of me, but what were you spending your money on when you were in college?
In a nice way to put it, more than me. So it was more than me. Let me just say this. I was called the ladies' man for a reason. Let's just put it like that. Let's talk NBA playoffs. Let's give love to the Phoenix Suns and reaching the NBA Finals. Chris Paul went to work. Chris Paul showed everybody who Chris Paul is, good and bad. In closing out the Clippers, what are your thoughts? First, you, Andy, what are your thoughts on the Suns getting to the finals and Chris Paul's performance?
First of all, it's a good thing we don't have a guarantee, but because the Clippers rained on that parade with winning Game 5. But yeah, honestly, what the performance well, I'm not going to say I expected 41-point performance from Chris Paul, but the way the Suns closed out that Game 6 is kind of what I expected them to do in Game 5. And I mean, nothing really surprised me. It's something I expected them to do, to be able to close out the Clippers, the shorthanded Clippers. And I know at the lunch break, Kris, there was a caller that called in talking about Patrick Beverley regarding could he face a possible suspension entering next season. You know, it was an interesting conversation where you talked about with Chris Paul and Marcus Cousins and Patrick Beverley. I mean, they have a bit of a reputation for, I wouldn't say, Kris, you could probably describe this better. Do they have a reputation for being dirty or just occasionally coming around?
They walk a fine line. They straddle that line. So it depends on the team you cover and the team you root for could lean your answer one way or the other. Because some folks think they're dirty. Some folks think Chris Paul is dirty. You know, and some folks believe Pat Beverley is dirty. Depends on your perspective. What do you say? What do you think about both?
I mean, they both have their moments. I remember there was this one with Chris Paul, and when he was with the Rockets, I think it was like one of the season openers when they played the Lakers, and him and Rondo got into it, and that's when you had, I think Chris Paul poked him in the face and towards the eye, and then that's when the whole debacle happened. And then, I mean, Patrick Beverley, that's been his identity, at least, to be a pest. Obviously, the one that stands out from his time in Houston was probably when they played OKC in the playoffs and ended up injuring Russell Westbrook. I think it was like 2013 or one of those years.
That's about right, yeah.
So they have the reputation, but going back to Phoenix as a whole, I feel like, honestly, they should probably be favored to win the NBA championship. Not only are they going to have at least, if Milwaukee wins on Saturday, when do the finals start? I'd say Tuesday?
I think so. Let me see if I can pull it up. I'll look for it. Will, you share your thoughts on it while I try to look up when the finals would start?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, kudos to, as far as Chris Paul, well, let me start with Patrick Beverley. I'll subscribe to the Russell Westbrook school of thought. Pat Bev out here tricking people. And he got exposed on Thursday night. He's the type of person that on your team, you love him. But as an opponent, you can't stand him. And that's what you want. I mean, you don't want, some people don't like the love fest of, the Banana Boat crew, Chris Paul, Melo, D Wade, LeBron, they love each other. It's all good. They want that Knicks Bulls, that old school bad boy Detroit Pistons basketball. There you go, Kris. I got you.
Yeah, I perked up when you said all that. Yes, sir.
I see. They like that, but Pat Bev is a throwback. Somebody, I'm trying to think who I saw say this, and they said Patrick Beverley is the Dennis Rodman of today's basketball. And somebody's like, "Oh no, there's no way." But I understand the context in which they said that. Dennis Rodman will. I mean, I think of a moment where on the free throw line he stood there and just stared at Frank Burkowski, didn't touch him, didn't say anything, just stared at him. And Frank Burkowski finally just got fed up and swung on him and got ejected. Poking Karl Malone, poking it's that irritant. And that's what Patrick Beverley does. He's good at what he does. He's scrappy, so he had to do what he had to do to remain in the league. He's got his multi-year deal now, but before that, Pat Bev was a league minimum, veteran minimum guy. That stayed on the end of the bench and worked his way up. And I think the last deal he got with the Clippers was 3 years, $40 million, if I remember right. So, but that mentality didn't change. He got paid, but his mentality didn't change. Now, all that being said, the shove in the back was crazy. I don't care what Chris Paul said to him. I don't believe that he said anything to him. I think he just looked at him, and Pat Bev, he knew. Chris Paul had been giving it to him, and I think at that moment he knew it's a wrap. And the frustration just took over. But you can't do that. You can't do that.
Agreed. And to Pat Bev's credit, he tweeted out, an apology to Chris Paul. I got an issue with that. I was glad to see it, but I don't need to see it. Just call Chris Paul. Leave a message. We don't need to know that. You put it out there for the public to see. So what? You tell me that you and Chris Paul talked about it and squashed it. I'm good. I don't need to see players, going back and forth on Twitter. You want to direct message each other, okay? But I don't need to see all that. I don't want to see that. It was good that he did it, I guess. But so what? You got Chris Paul's number. If you don't, call Monty Williams. Send a message to Monty. Apologize. Tell Monty I'm sorry. Hey, Monty, Coach Williams, tell CP I tried to call him. I couldn't reach him. Whatever. Let him know that I'm apologizing for what I did for my actions. Fine. That's not public. That's what we are in the 21st century. Whatever. There's some things that I think it's just a bit extra on social media.
Chauncey Billups got his number. He can get his number from Chauncey Billups, I'm sure.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure James has his number. I'm sure LeBron got his number. Agents, all these different things, But as of right now, I don't see a start date for the NBA Finals yet. So if the Bucks close, let me just get right to it now. Will the Bucks close it out in 6? Giannis is doubtful. Yahoo's Chris Haynes says there's a chance Giannis could play Game 7 on Monday if the Hawks win Game 6. Will the Bucks close it out Saturday in Atlanta?
You want to go with an expert answer, but I mean, I don't think you can right now. I mean, that's been the Bucks that when Kyrie Irving got injured and the Nets. Did James Harden come back in Game 5 or one of those games? Regardless, but it was
Game 5, yeah.
Harden. No Kyrie Irving, and everything was on Kevin Durant. You'd expect the Bucks to take control of that series right then and there and be able to close it out in 6. And instead, they couldn't win Game 5 and had to win 2 straight to get past the hobbled Nets team. And then going back to this series in Game 4, you'd expect them to come out firing and put the Hawks away without Trae Young. And they didn't do that. Instead, they got run out of the building, and then Yanez got injured and that made that game even worse. And then they turn around in Game 5 and play like they showed the air flash the potential of this could be a championship team. There's the good Bucks and the bad Bucks, and you have no idea which Bucks team will show up. I say if Trae Young plays, I'll go with the Hawks to win Game 6, and winner take all Game 7. Who knows? I don't know. Are we gonna do like a series prediction later on, or do I just go ahead and say it right now?
Hold that thought. But what you said is accurate. Will, you chime in.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and say Bucks close it out, knowing that we'll be here talking about Game 7 the next time we talk. But nonetheless, I look at these numbers, and I thought about it last night, and I'm looking at the numbers again. Why can't they have these numbers with Giannis? Brook Lopez, 33. Chris Middleton, 26. Chris Middleton pretty much can get 26 and 13 with Giannis. Drew Holiday, 25 and 13 assists. Bobby Portis, starting in place of Giannis, got 22. Why does it take Giannis? And that's the term I don't like at all. I got to step up now that Giannis isn't here. Well, if you have to step up, what have you been doing the rest of the time? To me,
you've been shortchanging your teammates and the fans.
Exactly. It's like, Giannis is out. Okay, let me step up. No, you should have been giving this effort the entire time. Brook Lopez, 33. Where's this been? I don't think he's had 33 the previous four games before that. And to have 33 in Game 5?
And you are correct, and it's part of basketball. pro sports. I mean, just really the step up mindset. You know, superstars are superstars for a reason, but the ball is in their hands so much they do take away from their teammates sometimes. Brook Lopez, and when I heard Marv Albert say this during the Brooklyn series, that Brook Lopez was the leading scorer in Nets franchise history, I thought it was another example of Marv showing his age and just being senile. But Brook Lopez has 10,000 plus points with the Nets. So he is, in fact, the leading scorer in Nets franchise history. So he can do this. He does have offensive skills. The Nets choose to not utilize him. When Brook Lopez gets the ball down low, he has enough skills that he can score down low. He has a nice all-around game that he can score inside and outside. Whenever Yanez is healthy, when Yanez goes to the bench, it's time for Brook Lopez to get on the block, get in the paint, and go to work. That, you know, you should be able to have an offense varied enough to be able to attack your opponent in multiple ways. The Hawks had no answer for Brook Lopez last night. None. So, and watch game 6. Brook Lopez may never touch the ball. He may not even touch the ball in game 6. Because all three of us see it. We don't know which Bucks team is going to show up. They are the better team. It's up to them to play like it. I was glad to see Jrue Holiday play well. After that, I mean, well, the whole team just was a disaster in game 4 when, you know, they just took the Hawks for granted. They wasted a great game 3 performance with an awful game 4 performance that just disrespected the game. They're like, no Trae Young. So what? They're not going to play well. They expected the Hawks to just roll over.
Yeah.
Come on, man. This is the pros. But we'll see what they do in game 6. You know, the reason I picked the Bucks to win game 5 was because it was at home. Game 6 is in Atlanta. The Hawks, I think, have a better road record these playoffs than do home record. The Bucks should win if they play their B game, especially if Trae Young doesn't play. They should win game 6. I'm going to just keep it simple. I'm going to pick the Hawks because it's in Atlanta. I may be wrong on that, you know, but this is who the Bucks are. We don't know which team is going to show up from game to game. They're not consistent. Sometimes they go through the motions to extremes, quarter to quarter. You know, I mean, that is just. I'm glad I'm not a Bucks fan because I'll be trying to be nuts to watch this team and to cheer for this team. So, okay, Will, you said Bucks and close out tomorrow.
I did.
Andy, you said.
You're basically asking me to pick the lotto numbers, Kris. It depends on the Bucks. You know, I'll go with you. I'll say the Hawks got it. For 2 reasons. One, I'll take they'll play well at home, but I'm gonna pretend. I'd say that if Trae Young plays, that'll give him the emotional lift, and even if he doesn't, I think the whole home crowd will help him over the top.
Okay, so 2-1 Hawks. Will, you got the Bucks. So next time we do a show will be around the NBA Finals, because if there's a game 7 between the Bucks and the Hawks, that'll be Monday. So we were not going to have a show that soon. But yeah, so we'll see who's right. You know, there's nothing earth-shattering one way or the other on this. Will.
Yes, sir.
Who is the best college football team in the country?
Oh, it's the Ohio State University.
Not Alabama?
Not Alabama.
Are you being biased or objective?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
Which
no,
is
but
it?
no seriousness. Alabama. I mean, Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. They lost a lot. Now, granted, they did. One of the receivers that they have is Ohio State transfer Jamison Williams, but there's a reason he left Ohio State. I mean, no disciplinary issue at all. He saw the writing on the wall that wide receiver room is packed, and he knew. It really brought him to the decision to leave was when Chris Olave returned for his senior season because everyone assumed Chris Olave was out. He got a first round grade from the advisory board. There's no reason for him to come back, but he came back. His quarterback is leaving. What most receivers don't want to stay a senior year to break in a new quarterback. And with the first round grade, but he came back for his reasons. And Jamison Williams like, I got to go because Julian Fleming's still here. Jackson Smith-Naba is still here. Marvin Harrison Jr. is coming. He had to go. So, Alabama has to replace a lot. Yeah, it's a machine. Those schools, have 5 stars on the third string depth chart. We understand that, but it's going to take some time. And Ohio State they're replacing the quarterback, as I said. So I just think, but top to bottom, coaching, the players, the system, I think Ohio State right now is the best team in college football.
Let me ask you, we're getting into college football, so less and less my area of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on you too, Andy, thoughts on the projected football championship expansion to 12 teams and the idea of the 6 highest rated teams being in it and then 6 at large. What are your thoughts? Is that a good thing?
Define
Andy?
good.
Yeah.
I would say define good. Do you mean from a revenue standpoint, it's great. You're going to have a lot more TV ratings, a lot more buzz.
Is it good for the non-Power 5 teams?
Oh yeah, for sure. They finally get their opportunity to compete for national championship. Now, how far they can go after they have to play the first game, or once they eventually have to run into the powerhouses like the Alabamas of the world, the Clemsons of the world, the Ohio States of the world, we'll see. It might. I think it's good overall, just because it'll finally get the group of 5 in the room, and you won't have the UCS claiming a national championship or anything like that anymore. So I see it as a good thing.
Will, is it a good thing for college football overall?
Yes, and more teams are in the pool to win the national championship. I won't say more teams have a chance. I will say more teams are in the pool to win the national championship. So it's good from that aspect. Recruiting, you can say, hey, we were in the college football playoff last year. Instead of 4 teams, it's now 12. So from a recruiting aspect, that's a positive. Will that resolve the issue? No, because now instead of 5 and 6 complaining they didn't get in, now it'll be 13 and 14 complaining they didn't get in. So, it's still going to remain the conversation piece. I should have got in. I was number 13. I beat number 11 and I'm number 13. I should have gotten into the playoff. So it doesn't resolve that issue. But overall, and now with the name, image, and likeness piece, the exposure that if a kid has a deal with a company, and the more exposure that kid has on the national stage and the college football playoff, that potentially could generate more income for that student athlete. So, number of reasons. Yeah, I would say it's good.
I like it because one of my biggest beefs with the 14 college football playoff cartel was you got 5 Power 5 conferences. You only got 4 spots. So right, just the initial creation of it, somebody's going to be left out. So right there, that's basic math. Then next, you got the subjectivity of we want the 4 best teams. Okay, well, the bias toward the SEC is so strong. You had one team make it that didn't even win its division in its conference, LSU, more than once, make the playoff. What is the point of having a conference if you're not even going to reward your teams for winning the conference? So that was my issue with all that. And just I was surprised, and I guess because it happened so much, I should have been surprised, are the people who are okay with that. Well, we didn't say it was going to be the conference champions. We just said it was going to be the 4 best teams. Okay, then why the hell you have conferences then? Then just put everybody in line. Just, why do we have divisions? Why do we have conferences? Why is there an SEC? Why is there an ACC? What's the point of all that if you're not going to reward the team for winning its conference? So do you think with this 12, and it still has to be voted on and approved, I'm leaning toward it won't happen until the end of the TV contracts. I don't believe it's going to happen in 2 years unless ESPN says, okay, we're good with this and we're going to pony up more money in 2 years, because they still have, 4 more years left on this current contract, 4 or 5 left on this current contract.
I believe so.
So I wouldn't be surprised if the school presidents say, hold up, let's wait for this contract to expire or get to the last year of the deal and open it up and hit the market. Let's see if we get more money from Fox or more money from NBC or Comcast or, the other networks, corporations, and get serious money. I think presidents are greedy like the rest of us. So it wouldn't surprise me if they decided to wait and not agree to it, because some folks believe it's going to happen soon. I'm not sure that's the case. Thoughts on that?
Presidents are greedy. That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, you're right. I could totally see, especially when it comes to those schools that have been in the playoff year in and year out. I mean, they don't necessarily have incentive to get a new deal done anytime soon. I mean, it'll probably be beneficial for them. When you're talking about Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, all those schools that are always in the conversation at least, they don't have to worry about an expanded playoffs most years, so what's the rush? But then you look at over the group of 5 schools, the American Athletic Mike Revesto certainly not going to like that. He's going to try to keep pushing and stuff. So it's interesting. When you mentioned that the 4-playoff format, obviously is one Power 5 school that gets left out automatically. The group of 5 schools are going to have to get support from at least one of the Power 5 schools, probably more, just to make things interesting and kind of push it along more, in my opinion. Another thing that you guys mentioned, that once it's a 12-team playoff, that you're going to be, why didn't 13 and 14 get in? I think the college football committee has to be more transparent. What do they look for? I mean, it seems like it's just subjective. I mean, they should have at least some guidelines that provide.
They should have guidelines, criteria, but we'll go ahead because I gotta add this. Then we're gonna close out. Add your thoughts on what Andy's just said.
Yeah, I mean, that's transparency means accountability, and you just said power. College presidents, college ADs, they don't want accountability. They're used to running the show. They're used to, okay, I may have to give an appearance. I have to answer to my base, my board of trustees, my fan base, the alumni, the board, they may give that appearance, but they don't. At the end of the day, they don't want to have to explain why I did that, because in most instances they can't.
And he just, he had a good thought too. So, okay, and I hope he comes back real quick because I'm trying to hold off because I want him to hear my answer on this as well. But
when it comes to like this, there's got to be at least some basic, even if it's broad, some kind of guideline. Because I know this past season you had Cincinnati at the time when they were undefeated. They beat Houston and they throttled Houston on a national TV game. It was on ABC. I think they were ranked 6th before that game, and then the game passes, and they end up going back a spot. Like, it makes no sense. They're getting penalized for who they have to play, and it was a dominant win too. So
let me say this, because I think it's analogous to basketball. I know the committees, the basketball committees, men's and women's, they have criteria. Okay, they have criteria that they say that they base their selections on for the at-large teams for the tournament. I assume they have criteria for the football playoff as well. But it's not etched in stone. Each committee member can emphasize certain criteria more than another committee member. So one year you may base it on strength of schedule. Another year you may base it on who'd you play, who'd you beat, the margin of victory, all these different things. So accountability, okay, we could demand it. And your point is right about, okay, well, since that he did this, then, the eye test. Some folks prefer the eye test. So, all these different things. I've been at NCAA headquarters. I've been a part of those exercises. I've seen that. We get, like 15 points of criteria. Each committee member said, well, I like 5 of these 15 more than others. Somebody else said, well, I like the other 5. And then someone else, well, I like these 5. There's no consistency of what is important it's all subjective. So that is the issue. I'm sure it's the same in football. I'm sure it's the same in any NCAA selection sport involved. That it's, I prefer this. I prefer that. Well, they played them here, and then they played them here. So-and-so was hurt here. He didn't play here. She didn't play there. And I'm going to close it out. Get everybody, tell everybody how they can find each of you. Coach Shuey mentions it during his interview when he said that the committee, when he heard that the reason why they were kept out, why U of H was among the first 4 out, he gave, I think, 3 different scenarios as to why they were kept out of the tournament. One was they lost to Cincinnati. It was a bad loss. It was a bad home loss, no question. But then it was, well, if you would have beat this team, if you'd have got to the conference tournament championship game, it would have helped you this. Well, if you'd have done this, if you would have beat this team by more points, if you would have done, why were you behind Stephen F. Austin? Well, and just as an example, I'm not bashing Stephen F. Austin. Okay. Southland Conference is not a great conference in women's basketball. Okay. It's really a one-bid league, typically year in, year out. SFA had no great non-conference wins. U of H beat SFA. SFA's net ranking was 20 or so almost the entire season. 20. U of H was around 50, 48, 55 the most of the year. And I was told, well, SFA net ranking is so good is because their defensive numbers are so great. Didn't have squads to do who they played. Non-conference. Okay, well, what's the point of that? They shut down teams defensively. Well, maybe their conference wasn't that great. Maybe their conference isn't good enough to score on SFA. So, things like that. Now, next year, maybe a whole different other point of emphasis for the committee. Things like that. You got criteria, stick with the criteria. Say, hey, this is what we're emphasizing. This is why we're going to pick these teams based on this, year in, year out. Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Even with the AP voters, sorry, Will, I didn't mean to cut you off, but even with the AP voters, when U of H beat USF, the women's basketball team beat USF. I believe that next AP poll, they didn't even get a single vote. So, we're kind of going in a circle where we there should be some accountability there. There should be something. There shouldn't be so much subjectivity in the guidelines. They should stick to a more rigid one and have specific examples. I think when you mentioned Ron Huey said, I think he also mentioned if one team had played in their conference tournament and had decided to not play, they would have been in because they wouldn't have been a stolen bid from that conference.
Right. Yeah, go ahead, Will, and then to piggyback on what Andy just said, I'll add to that. Go ahead, Will.
Sure. Yeah, and it's what you said. I think criteria and accountability are window dressing, because at the end of the day, the members of the committee are in that room and they're going to pick what they want to pick. They're going to do what they want to do. So, the criteria is for us to say, well, they said they use this, and this guideline and this criteria. They didn't. In most instances, they didn't, because if they did, you would have 3 explanations as to why a team didn't get in over another. So, unless you have complete transparency, where and you won't have that. You have cameras in the room, and you have the camera in the room where they're sitting there at 6:27, 3 minutes before the bids are announced, and that's again fodder. It's window dressing, but they don't want that. They don't want that.
Yeah, the only thing I'm certain of that the committee is true to is when it comes to a committee member school that they work for, and discussions centered on that school, that committee member leaves the room. Sure. So as to not influence that. That's one thing I'm certain of. I know that. But everything else is just subjective. And Andy, the point you made about Missouri State, because of COVID, and hopefully this is just a one-time deal, because of their opponent that they had in the conference tournament had a positive test, Missouri State opted to not play the rest of the Missouri Valley tournament, women's basketball. So the team that won the conference tournament took U of H's at-large bid, because the Valley was only going to be a 1-bid league, and that was going to be Missouri State. Missouri State ran through the conference, throughout the season, all those things. But because of COVID and the concerns with COVID, they knew that they were going to be in the tournament, period. They knew that already. Everybody knew that. But they were like, I'm not going to risk my players' health because of COVID concerns. Well, that opened up another spot for the conference, because the automatic berth goes to the conference champion. Well, it wasn't going to be Missouri State. So that means the Valley becomes a 2-bid league. Because of that, that team, I think it was Bradley, took U of H's spot. So, it's just one of those weird things that happens. Will, how can folks find you on social media?
Appreciate you, Kris. Social media, Will Gibson 7, Twitter and Instagram. Facebook is Will Knows. The Will Knows podcast is forthcoming, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Andy, how can folks find you on the internet?
On Twitter, they can follow me at Yanez_5 with a capital A, capital Y. And on Instagram, it's just Yanez5, no underscore.
Guys, if you don't mind, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Do you have, I'm going to try to get the Olympic team players on the men's side. We can discuss the women's team too, if I'm able to pull it up here. Any issues with the men's team selections? Let's see here. Let's see. We got. All right. We got Bam Adebayo, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Jeremy Grant, Draymond Green, Drew Holiday, Zach LaVine, Damian Lillard, Kevin Love, Chris Middleton, and Jason Tatum.
For me, I don't have an issue with any of that. Jeremy Grant was a surprise. That was an interesting name when I saw that.
He's a Piston, Will. Come on, man. He's a Piston. That's why he's on the squad.
I know it. But outside of that, no. I mean, a lot of guys opted out. James Harden opted out. LeBron opted out. AD opted out. AD's not on the way, but those guys opted out. So no, I mean that 12, I don't have an issue. No, I'm fine. I'm good with that.
Andy?
Yeah, I don't have an issue, but I'll be interested to see if, I'm sure there'll be more opt out. They'll have to figure out different opponents. I'm not sure. Devin Booker, stays with them playing in the finals, and then Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday of the Bucks advance, that might be 3 potential openings for new players to step in.
I did see that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was surprised that those three. I was surprised that the guys who were on teams still in the playoffs accepted the invite to try to play for the team. You know, like Booker, Chris Middleton, and Drew. Heck, initially I was surprised that James Harden said yes, reportedly. And I was like, James, man, your hamstring is not good, man. So why are you doing this? And then the next day he's like, no. And then that's when Jeremy Grant was put on the team. Now the 17 players selected named to the men's select team to practice against and compete against the U.S. team. Sadiq Bey, Pistons. Miles Bridges, Hornets. Anthony Edwards, Timberwolves. Darius Garland, the Cavs. Tyrese Halliburton, the Kings. Tyler Hero, Heat. John Jenkins, Vanderbilt College, Vanderbilt University, but overseas experience playing in Italy at Bilbao Basket. Keldon Johnson for the Spurs. Josh Maggette, another international experience with Turkey. Played at Kentucky. Played at Alabama Huntsville, excuse me. Dakota Mathias, Sixers and Purdue. Emmanuel Quickly, the Knicks. Naz Reid, Timberwolves. Cam Reynolds. Last pro team was the Rockets. Played college ball at Tulane. Isaiah Stewart, Pistons. Obi Toppin, Knicks. PJ Washington, Hornets. And Patrick Williams, Bulls. So that's the 17 guys who will help work out the main men national team and fill in for the absence of Booker, Middleton, and Holiday as they are still playing in the finals. 2 Pistons, 2 Knicks. Cam Reynolds is representing the Rockets. I was kind of surprised that they didn't have Kevin Porter Jr., Christian Wood, but I really think Christian Wood needs to get healthy. So I can understand that too. Any thoughts on that? And that team's going to be coached by Eric Spoelstra.
Yeah, it's a good group. Those guys are now in the pool for future international competitions for USA basketball. So, Quigley, Darius Garland, of course. For me, Cleveland that gives him a great deal of experience. He got hurt towards the end of the season. Was coming on strong, and I, honestly, truth be told, to go back to the Cavs a little bit, gave Kobe Altman pause and opened his eyes to maybe moving on from a Colin Sexton with the way Darius Garland played without him before he got hurt. So, but great opportunity for him to get more experience. Miles Bridges, PJ Washington for Charlotte, that core group, along with LaMelo Ball. That can only benefit them in the upcoming season. So I think it's a good group.
Andy?
Yeah, Chris, what I'm hearing there are a lot of Pistons. You got Cade Cunningham to the mix. Pistons should be I'm playing. The Pistons should be
a tough team. As Coach Casey said toward the end of the season, y'all get the losses in right now because the team's gonna be good in the future. So the future's bright. So I'm looking forward to the future. And hey, I've been a Pistons fan longer than you've been alive, so since '86. So I've been through some ups and downs. So right now it's going up after a lot of downs. So, fellas, what's your availability for our next show?
When and where?
I can do next Friday.
Next Friday, okay. Let's see, because I guess there's a chance the finals could start Wednesday, and then if they do that, they'd be Wednesday, Friday. So we'll see. If it starts Tuesday, then it won't be Friday. So for sure. But let's see. Let's see if we can, schedule around the finals, because I really don't want to miss the finals, even though we will probably be done with a stream before the game start, because I think the games will start around 8:00 Central Time. So be late starts for you, Will. For the finals, but we'll play it by ear. But thank you as always for joining us. And hey, we got the NBA draft July 29th. So that's less than 4 weeks away. We can talk about that. Las Vegas Summer League will be in August. We may slide in some the Olympics. Gotta talk about that. Men's and women's. Oh, real quick. Pronounce her name. Sha'Carri Richardson. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
She smoked some weed, flunked the test, suspended 30 days. Y'all agree with that or not?
By the letter of the law, yeah. I mean, it's the rule. It's the rule. Unfortunate circumstance. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to bash her or, condemn her. She made a mistake, and the consequences are what they are. So, now I said this to AJ earlier today. I'm still not convinced that she won't run in the women's 100 because the 30-day suspension allows her to run in the 4x1 relay, which she still should be eligible for. I'm still not convinced that for whatever reason, the public backlash and the outcry on her behalf that USATF, United States Track and Field Association, is getting, I'm not convinced that the tide won't turn. And even though her trial times were eliminated and qualified, the conditional or the qualifying time for the women's 100 in the Olympics is 11.15. I mean, she clearly has run that before she qualifies from that aspect. I'm convinced, until I'm proven otherwise, that they'll find a way to get her back in that 100 because they're not in the business of eliminating their the biggest star in women's track and field right now. So I'm sure somehow, for whatever reason, I could be totally wrong, but I'm somehow thinking this will change and she'll be able to run.
Andy?
I mean, Will said it's good. I mean, it's bad for her that she got caught with a rule. I mean, it's a rule of the letter of the law that in a few years it probably won't even be there. But I mean, there's not much you can say.
And see, all three of us are on the same page. Yeah, it's just weed. I know that, and the perception of weed has changed drastically in the last 10 years. No question. But for right now, it's still a rule. Okay, until that law is changed, she flunked the test. It's a banned substance. Should it be on the list? No. But right now it is. So the consequences are she's got to, take those 30-day suspension. And Will, you might be right. She is the face of women's U.S. track. So who knows? They may find some way. They may backtrack and spin it away to save some face, and she is on the team. We shall see about that. But I brought that up just to show the viewers that folks talking sports, 3 dudes talking sports. Track field is a sport. Football is a sport. It's not just going to be basketball talk here on these shows. So, yes, I am Kris Gardner, Houston Roundball Review basketball. But as I've said many times on shows I've been blessed to appear on for 20 plus years, I know sports, okay? I can talk about a lot more things than basketball. So we're going to do that here on these shows, on this platform. So we're going to broaden it out. I will lean on other folks to talk baseball because I can't stand baseball. Just can't stand it. I don't care. Kudos to David Grubb for MLBro.com. But no, me and baseball, I won't discuss it. I can have other folks talk about it and share their knowledge about it. I'm fine with that. All right, we're going to close it out. Hang tight. Stay tuned follow us on Twitter to see our next date for our next show. But we're going to do this, and I am serious, and Andy and Will agree. We are looking for sponsors for our shows. Hey, we all want to eat. This is a business. This is a platform to share knowledge and insight and information with you. Hit us up. reach out to us, and we can go from there and work with you to get your product out there with this audience. Guys, thank you for your time. Y'all be safe. Take care. We're closing it out.
Bucks Suns. I got Bucks Suns in the final.
Oh man, that's the next show, man. We're talking about Bucks Suns predictions and all that kind of stuff. You know,
Well,
that's a teaser,
Bucks
man.
Series will win.
Well,
Hey,
you know,
I'll give my submission.
okay,
I don't know who will win. You gotta see. Who
okay.
wins.
Well, let's
Either
let's do that.
I
Let's
got
do that.
Milwaukee in the final.
Okay, yeah. Who's gonna win the series? Will, Bucks or Hawks?
Oh, Bucks. Bucks.
So we all three Bucks. So we all agree on that.
So Atlanta's gonna win.
Heaven help us. You know, we're picking the Bucks because I don't know, because they really are the better team on paper, but they got to prove it. So okay, Bucks Suns will be the matchup, and then we can go from there and talk about if Yanez plays, if he's healthy, how healthy will he be, things like that going forward. But guys, take care. We're going to log out. Hang tight after we log out.